So the first part is, yeah, so discuss the peacemaking pyramid. And yeah, let me even find out where that's at.
Um, one of them's on 215. But it doesn't look. Oh, there we
It
go.
says it's like the influence pyramid though. Is that the same one?
Oh, the influence pyramid. Wait, what pyramid does this? Does it say?
It says that's um the peacemaking pyramid, but I think it's the same thing.
Peacemaker.
I know I'm
Okay.
gonna look it back to see because I don't remember a peacemaking pyramid.
Yeah, I don't either.
Okay, we'll just talk about this one then.
Okay.
Okay, so something that I really found interesting was a lot of times that we are confronted with problems or like our family members, we like want to help them as much as we can, and we kind of just have the idea, okay, we just need to fix this problem. So, like for example, Corey's addicted to drug among like a lot of the other kids as well, and a lot of the parents are like, oh, I'm not gonna like let my kid be addicted to drugs, like regardless of what happens. But they have been seeing them as objects and everything. Um, and so that's like the wrong way to go about it. And a lot of times we're limited though because we place ourselves in a box that our children or their children are as well. So instead of having that mentality of like we need to fix it, it's like we need to help things go right. And when I was first reading this, I actually just in my whole like week and a couple of days of like motherhood. um, okay, really like though it like made me think of breastfeeding. And sometimes your baby just like doesn't want to latch on properly, or when like mine the other day, it was like the middle of the night, one of those feedings, and he was just gotten him grumpy and stuff. And I'm pretty sure he just needed a burp before, but he wouldn't burp initially, and so he was super hungry as well. So he's sitting there though, and he's like trying to like latch on, and I've been using a nipple shield right now because nothing like forms right, if that makes sense. Like initially, because
Yep.
everything's like too big right now. But yeah, so I'll do that, and he'll sit there and like punch at it and like wave his hands all over, so milk gets everywhere. And
Hold
I
on
kind
just
of
a
like
second.
think about that.
Someone just knocked at my door, and I don't know
Okay,
who.
no problem.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Oh, you're so good. No worries. But yeah, like breastfeeding, I feel like you could sit there and be like, oh my goodness, I need to fix this problem. And so you could just try to like relatch on or whatever, or do those things, or else you can really look at it and be like, okay, my baby is like human, and instead of like, I just need to get him fed. And like, what does he really need in order to help him eat better, if that makes sense? So instead of like trying to
Yeah.
still like force him to eat or like try to change positions about how to eat, like burping him or changing his diaper, or if he's too hot, like getting him down to a onesie or just out of his diaper or whatever. So that's like something that I thought about, which I don't know, was super insightful for me at least.
No, that
But
totally is because it's hard when you're in the first few weeks and you're sleep deprived and your child won't latch on right, and it can be really easy to get in a box and sad to say, like I don't think a lot of people want to admit it, but see your child as an object,
yeah,
because you're so stressed and you just want things to go right. And sometimes it's hard to get that perspective of having the patience to see your baby, as a person, and taking the time to think of, okay, what, instead of just getting all flustered and frustrated and trying to force things to happen, what is the best way to approach this? To really, really think it through. Hard. It was hard.
yeah, it is. And I think just with that too is like, with the whole thing of, if putting ourselves out of that box, like oftentimes we want to put them out of the box, but we also need to take ourselves out of the box. And so a lot of times, like my mom, she, especially when I was like first breastfeeding, because she was up here to kind of help me and everything, which I was super grateful for. But yeah, she is like, you have to relax and you have to breathe, you know? And so when he's like not latching on, or like my milk's not coming in, I just like take a deep breath and like hopefully it like comes in or whatever. So yeah, it's interesting. It's like we have to make sure that we keep ourselves out of that box, or at least ourselves in as human as well, so that we can be able to address that situation.
Yeah.
That's not even address that situation. So we can help with the to go right. I guess.
Yes.
Okay, the
so
next.
Sorry, go ahead. No, just go ahead.
Okay. It says, how have you been impacted after you read this book? I don't know. I kind of just like talked about that, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I think this book has really. I think it's really impacted the way I see people, and just starting to recognize who I am at war with and who I'm not, and who I'm at peace with. I really liked how in the last week's section it talked about you can be at peace with one person and then at war with another person. You can be in a box and out of a box at the same time. So just reflecting on, I'm at peace with my husband. Like I can see him as a person. That's really, I feel like that's pretty easy for me. But then there's other people that it doesn't come as easily. People that rub me the wrong way, that make me kind of become defensive. And when you become defensive and you start seeing them as an object and wanting to justify and like validate those feelings when they shouldn't be validated, really. We should have patience with other people, even though that they might not have patience with us. But it's been really interesting to see, who I'm at war with and who I'm not, and starting to think about, well, why is that? What am I trying to justify? What is it that I'm doing that is making it that way?
Right. Yeah, I think like something else I kind of thought about was, now it's like come up my mind, but yeah, I guess it's like really the fact that we have to place ourselves outside of the box, and especially when we're trying to teach or even listen to those, when we're inside of a box, it doesn't really work. And I just kind of reflected upon that as well when I used to teach Relief Society, and I ever wonder if I was in a box at that time and just how beneficial it was to others. I mean, I really tried that I wasn't, just because I really try to make it about them. Yeah, and it's like the same thing to be applied like when we go to church and everything. If like we're in a box, we're not gonna be able to be adherent to the things that we need to listen to, or even the comments that we make. Like we're gonna be putting walls up and they're aggressive, even for that matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been a really good book. Like I really look forward to, I guess, using it in perspectives when like my kids are teenagers.
Oh,
And,
yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I'm like,
I can't even imagine how useful this will be with kids. It's hard sometimes to really see them as a person. So, I mean, they start out as these little babies that don't have a ton of personality, and so you're just taking care of them, and then as they grow, they start to develop personality, and you're like, wait a minute, you have an opinion? What happened? Like, my son is like a toddler, and he knows what he wants and what he doesn't want, and sometimes, I need to listen to that. Sometimes, I'm the mom and what I say goes, but sometimes, you have to get down on the level and be like, okay, why are you so upset? What are you feeling right now, and what has gotten you to this spot? And what, maybe it's because haven't been listening to him. He's hungry and I haven't been paying attention, and be like, oh, that's why you're so cranky. But if I don't see him as a person, you just see, oh, he's cranky, he's being ornery, that's not okay, I'm his mother, that, you want to put your foot down. But when you take a step back and see him as a person, you realize that's not the best approach, because you haven't been listening to him.
Right. And I don't know, I just keep thinking of that too. It's like that perspective that we have of ourselves as well as, we put so many demands on ourselves. Like, okay, I have to feed him. Okay, at this time or whatever, or because he's still sleeping, I have to pump now. Or it's like, okay, I have to eat so that I don't pass out. Or, all these different things. It's like a checklist almost. But if we really think about it in a way that, we see ourselves, that we can make mistakes, or that we're not perfect, then it's going to be a lot better because we'll be able to take care of our kids better. So
yeah, just a second, I'm gonna go put her down.
Okay, you're fine.
Whew. Okay, what's the next?
Okay, so I think we talked about like what we learned to help us personally. I think what we can do is just like talk about personally.
Okay, what have you learned to help you professionally? We've talked a lot about personal applications, but professionally, I think it's really easy to put coworkers, to be in a box with coworkers, because you don't always get to know them on a personal level, and so it's
Right.
hard to see them as a person. You just see them at work, and you kind of, with some, you are surprised when they show their personal side. You're like, wait a minute, I don't know you in that way, and so it's sometimes hard to see them as a person when things might be going wrong, and you want to point fingers or whatnot. But if you see them as a person, you can maybe see what was going on at that time, why things didn't get done. Maybe it wasn't really in their control, and you can take the time to see that instead of being like, well, why didn't you do this and why didn't you do that? But to really see them as a person.
No, I agree. I think like something, especially from this chapter, is like Lou, he talks about how he doesn't really interact with his coworkers too much, and that maybe he never even really cared about them enough to ask them about their well-being or to care about how they're feeling, because in his mind and perspective, with his position and his job, he manages a lot and he has a lot of those like the business relationships, but because he only thinks that way as them as objects, they're very detrimental and they are harmful towards the coworkers and even towards their output of their performance of what they perform as for work. And so, which is kind of sad, and like I feel like if we like really take the time to build those relationships and kind of to think them, spend time with people, I feel like, I don't know, that's like kind of hard if you don't really have that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Lou at the very end and some of the other parents, they were like, well, what if I fail with it, And everybody, the counselors and everybody from the camp were saying, well, you're going to fail, like, because we're human. And I think it's important to remember that, and it's going to be hard to change like that aesthetic or that mindset of going from, not caring to caring. It's like but if we really have that with everybody, it'll work out a lot better. So
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna grab my little guy before we start.
Okay, no, you're fine. Charlotte. Okay.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay. So we're talking about personally and professionally. Did you want to add anything else?
I had one thought. So today I did a site visit at the BHC where Sister Sargent works. And she was talking about how, she started out as just a recreational therapist and kind of, through the years got different jobs. Hold on. Charlotte, be happy. Be happy. Look at the computer. But she was talking about when she became assistant manager, and like having to change from more of an active, participant in the treatments and stuff to, managing the staff. And I asked her if that was hard, and she said, yeah. And she just kind of talked about the adjustments that need to be made, and at the same time there was another thing, like really huge thing going on at the hospital that was part of her new position, and so while her staff wanted her to be more involved there at the with them, she had to be somewhere else. Not necessarily. They're noisy. They're noisy. And so I just think, it would be easy as maybe one of her staff to be to get frustrated with her and wanting her help more than she could really give at that time because of her new position and the requirements that it demanded on her. It would be easy to be blind to everything that was demanded of her and just see, think, oh, she's supposed to be over us here and she's not, and it'd be easy to not be open to acknowledging her other responsibilities because you'd want to maybe blame your manager for maybe failures that were going on because you're being narrow-minded in their responsibilities. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Where actually, it would be more their responsibility. She talks about, having to, trust them and let them know that I trust you and your decisions and whatnot, instead of coming to her all the time, looking for answers, teaching them how to make decisions in that department for themselves and run it the way it needs to be run.
No, I agree. And I think that's why it's so important to, the first couple of chapters that we've been reading about or that we were reading about, and just having objectives and your vision and your mission and everything, how important it is to share those with the rest of your staff and make sure that they're trained and that it comes down from authority so that they're able to understand what they're doing and then what everybody's roles and responsibilities are to make that common goal. So
yeah, definitely.
Okay, so
now we need to move on to budgeting, which
Yeah.
I think we need to get a book. Do you know which? Trying to remember which book it listed.
I know I have that problem all the time, actually.
I think it's the blue management book. It's right here.
I think it is too. Yeah, let me grab mine too. That one is the professional issues.
And I think trying to remember what chapter it was in this book.
I want to say, I may have it marked right here. Yeah, chapter 8. It's on page 103 is where it starts.
Got it. Okay. So the first question is identify any 4 different types of budgets. And then within that, we have to provide an example of each type of budget, summarize what is unique about each budget, describe in which situations the budget would be best used, and then it has some examples for some. So zero-based budget, line item budget, object classification budget, enterprise budget, capital improvement budget.
Okay, 4 types of budgets. 6 right there.
Yeah, I know. We can choose.
I don't know. I think like the one that is like super easy to associate with is item budget. And that one was referred to, I think Sister Greenwood talked about it as a yoga class. Is that right? And every classification.
Are you talking about a line item budget?
I think so, yeah. Where it's like if you have like a yoga class, then everything that you buy is like you have to pay for the mat, so but then it's also a time thing, which is factored in as far as time for what the service is for the class and the teaching. And then you have like the mat fee, and then you have does that make sense? Is that's the line item budget?
I think so. Let me.
I almost want to I think I'm gonna put my notes from.
Okay. Yeah, it's not in this book.
That was just from the podcast that I think, but
yeah. Here, let me.
I don't know if that was like what made sense to me, if I'm right.
I think you are.
Okay. And then I don't know, what was the one? I think it might be where it talked about, and I'm just like thinking of the podcast. So that's like the freshest that's in my mind for whatever reason. But the one where it's like if you have a hospital and you have different managements and different departments, you have like rec therapy department, you'll have like the NICU, you'll have maternity and labor, you'll have the ER, and within those different departments, sometimes you'll have like an office or a work party, and everything that needs to be budgeted for that, like because each one has a separate budget. And so food for those or any kind of supplies would need to be factored in as well.
Trying to think if that is enterprise budget.
I don't know. Good question. I almost want to say it's the object classification.
Object classification, maybe. Let me pull up my notes as well, because I know I made a note about that.
I don't know, Sister Greenwood just gives really good examples.
Yeah, she does. Okay. Oh, dang it.
So slow when it's on. We're on
I
Google
think it is
Hangouts.
object classification.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I wish I was in here and I could read about it. My favorite is zero-based budgeting, just because that is so similar to like a budget you would have in your home.
Oh yeah, I agree.
You know, the idea that you have every dollar goes into some kind of category, you know, and at the end you have zero, so you know where all of your money is going.
With like my husband and I, with like having this little guy, we had to sit there and factor out everything because I'm going to school full time and then my husband's going to school part time and working part time. So we're like, okay, where do we? Because he was working full time, but we're like, where do we stand as far as that? And what, diapers, if we factor in that and everything else, and maybe formula feeding, but groceries as well, and gas, and like all the trips that we're gonna need to make in the next little while to go down to Utah to see family for Thanksgiving or whatever, like everything. Yeah, so it's super nice. Like we just had to recently do that just so that we can see where we were at and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that one, something that was unique about that one was that it didn't involve profit. You know, it didn't calculate for, it was just mainly, I think, about expenditures. You know, it didn't, she didn't really talk about, it wasn't geared towards profit. She didn't really calculate that in as much.
Yeah, and I like what you said, like, so it's like planning for the future, but you start with a zero or like a blank slate every year. So you just kind of have to factor in, like, every little thing and hope to plan for the best.
Yeah, I mean, they probably plan for like the profit that you'd have throughout the year, but that profit always goes to someone, to some category, not necessarily the end surplus, I guess. I don't know.
No, I agree. Then we just need to talk about one more, right? Because we just kind of talked about 3.
Okay. We talked about object,
classification, the line item, and then zero based.
Yeah. So we just need one more. Curly, do you need to go back down to sleep? Let's see. There's the revenue and expense budget, operating budget. It says that this one's the most common.
The revenue?
Yeah, or, never mind. Let's talk about this one. The capital expenditure budget. And okay, she was talking about that's like the big ticket item budget.
Yeah. I really think that's one interesting because it's like you're gonna always have something big that you're gonna need or something that you're gonna hope to need or aspire to, like a new car or say like a house or something. I mean, that's like a personal example, but I mean, I guess equipment, for any kind of thing. You
Uh-huh.
always have equipment, but even upgrade equipment for the newest and latest technologies.
Yeah. Yeah, you're always needing to
Um,
update or get new stuff. New stuff that comes out. Because you don't want to be outdated for your clients. They're paying for, the best care, and they should get it. And I think that's hard. Money's not necessarily easy to come by. And
it's
so,
true.
but this type of budget, really helps plan for that. You're really looking ahead. I think it takes someone with a lot of foresight. A lot of people are equipped for that, because sometimes I feel like I can be very short-sighted. This is what we need right now. This is how we're going to accomplish it right now. But then to have the foresight, well, in 5 years, this is going to change, and we're going to need this for the facility. We're going to need to account for, inflation. We're going to need to account for, whatever all the variables are. And I think that's really important.
It's true. Is this the same one where it, if you place it into that budget, or like that savings account, like it's not touched after that? Is that right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's this one.
Okay. Sweet. Okay, so.
Okay, so now we just need to do funding. Identify 4 different types of funding. That's easy.
To get grants.
Yeah, grants is one of them. Contributions. Let's see. Yeah, let me write down grants.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think it's interesting how in the podcast, Sister Greenwood had just mentioned that, like, within our major or our profession, we're gonna be probably doing at least like grants or contributions, like thing, and like always be writing those. So just because that's how we receive money as far as funding. Profession, but
yeah, I know. I thought that was interesting too. Like, well, even just in the reading, like it talks about, there's lots of reasons that people choose this profession, and the funding and budgeting and whatnot side of it is not one of those reasons. But everybody's gonna really. But we're all gonna have to participate in that in some aspect, which kind of scary to think about, because that's not my strong side. But okay,
for me,
so
I'm even thinking about. Sorry, I was gonna say, even writing a grant, you have to like write it really well, So even then, that's like English in putting into practice right there. But
yeah. No, so we have grants. Some other ones are fees and charges, and then sponsors. It doesn't have it in the book. I'm not seeing that anywhere, but I remember her talking about sponsors.
Yeah.
And then I think fundraising was one of them.
Yeah, that's part of contributions. Yeah.
Okay, contributions. I'll write that down. Cool.
Okay.
So wait, is sponsors part of contributions too?
I don't know. Let's see. I don't.
Okay. All right. Well, that's.
Oh, I guess unrestricted donations is part of it, so probably.
Okay. Then the other one is appropriations, but I don't know exactly what that one is.
Yeah, it says like, well, they're tax-based funds, that could be federal or state or like even local within the community.
Okay.
So it's like a fixed
Got it.
dollar tax that is always there. So
Cool. Okay, so provide an example of each type of fund. Grants. I think you kind of talked about writing grants, but just getting a grant for a specific. I know that here at the school, one of the teachers got a grant for the school to do this. I can't remember what it was called, but in one of the grades or like two of the grades, each student had to pick somebody in history to. Okay, I'm gonna go lay her down.
okay.
Jeez. Wait, you tired? Okay. I'm back.
Okay, so we're talking about grants, I think. Sorry, I don't know.
Oh, that's okay. So she got a grant for the school, and each kid, it was kind of like a science fair, only dealing with history. So you picked a person in history that you wanted to represent, and you had to build, like, you had this booth, and you kind of did a presentation, but the kids would dress up like the person, and they do this, like, this, almost like, how you go to a museum and you hit a button, and then maybe something talks to you.
Yeah.
So it's they kind of did that. So when people came in front of their booth, they would, like, do this monologue as if they were this person. And it was this huge thing, and, it was kind of, they did, it was kind of a competition, like, there were prizes to be won, and, so she got funding to kind of do this huge school project. So that's an example of a grant, getting a grant for something.
Yeah.
Fees, that's really easy, just charging for a program. I liked how she talked about how they kind of decide on what fee to charge for a program. We want to make a 20% whatever, this is what it's going to cost to run it, but then we want to make 20% extra or however much.
Right. Yeah, that was, she went like into great detail about that.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about some fundraising as far as a contribution.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a fundraiser could be anything like those school fundraisers that you have, like selling candles or whatever, or I guess on All Reality, so Girl Scout cookies. Is that a fundraiser, I guess?
Yeah.
It goes to the organization, I guess, but.
Yeah.
And then, let's see. The only one, I guess, like the appropriations, for example about that, like a tax-based fund.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, would that be like a fee for a state park, like going to Yellowstone or Yosemite, or is that more of a a fee? Because if it's a state park,
I think I want to say that I don't know appropriation. Well, I think like if you just are talking about like a program, they get funding from the government. You know, wherever they get that money from, they could. There's probably hundreds of ways that the government puts money into that budget, but that's where that organization would get that funding is from that.
right? Okay, that makes sense.
So, whether that's a tax on the people or a tax at state parks or a tax somewhere else.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, is each type of funding
That's used. Wait, summarize each type of funding, or
yeah, that's what it says.
kind of summarize them. Describe in which situations each type would be best used.
I don't know. For example, like a high school football team or something related to high school, you're not going to necessarily have like a tax on the high school players. Like that doesn't work like that. You're not going to really. I mean, maybe you'll get a grant, but you know, it's more of a
most of
community.
it's probably going to be fees and contributions, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And I really think like so fundraisers, like I don't know what football or dance team or whatever doesn't have a fundraiser.
Yeah.
To kind of helps out a lot, and whether it be for, you know, programs or else for, yeah, just any equipment that they need. I know that, you know, our football team, my freshman year, I think, they sold sweatshirts or something, and then they redid the turf in our indoor facility, which was really nice. So,
Oh my.
like that, but
I think for like nonprofit organizations, they probably write a lot of grants, trying to get some grants, fundraising. But I know that there's a nonprofit art program here in St. Anthony, and they offer different classes, and they have a fee. But I think the fee only covers, you know, the equipment that would be used during, like, so you buy, like they have ceramics, so you would pay the fee, which would cover the ceramic that you would do, and then paint costs and whatever. The people teaching it and running the place don't earn any money.
right, yeah.
As far as I know.
No, I think you're right. So, let's see, and then so contributions, we talked about that. So is the other one appropriations, right?
I don't know.
I guess, well, fees, the best situation for that would be like, you know, a class that you're having, I guess, to charge them for the equipment, or I guess the hourly
fee. I thought you were talking about appropriation.
I was, but then I was like, oh yeah, there's a fee. Yep.
Yeah. Appropriation, would that be more of like maybe a government offered class, maybe? I wonder if hospitals get maybe government funding.
Probably, just because, I don't know, I guess, because Medicaid is a government funding, so, or Medicare. Yeah, I like read through it, but I'm like, still, that's like the one I'm like, I have a hard time with that.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we've covered. Sorry.
You're so good.
Covered all of the topics. I'm gonna stop broadcasting.
Okay.